Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Diablo 4 as we take our first look at Season 6 PTR. As I'm making this video, I'm in the first evening of the actual PTR launch, and that means we're in Phase 1, which is essentially the first 2 days where we're doing testing for leveling. This means players are not going to be able to fully boost their characters with all the gear and items and just XP that they're going to throw at us through the PTR. So for these first 2 days, they're wanting to collect data and feedback on the leveling portion, whether that's the initial leveling when you're leveling from 1 to 50 and beyond, or on the characters that they've de-leveled, our main characters, down to 50, which we need to level to 60. After these 2 days are up though, which will be pretty quick since it's going to be a reasonably lengthy PTR, we'll be able to get the usual boosts and engage with that. This detail is apparently something people weren't expecting or didn't know en masse. Clearly a lot of people weren't aware of this because the global chat in game when I'm playing is every few seconds someone talking about where's the booster. So do be warned that this public test is meant for testing and they're testing the leveling in the first 2 days. So this video is just kind of a little update to let you guys know what's going on with it, the details of it, if you're not playing the PTR yourself, or if you're thinking about doing it, what you need to know going in. So one awesome detail, if you're going to make a character and level up during the leveling days, is the new character creator screen. As you can see, all of the classes have a new kind of animation that plays out to highlight what they're actually about. There's information on screen, you can look at their different kind of playstyles and builds. There's a little box to showcase the class being used. And now we have 6 options because Spiritborn is now in the roster. However, as they warned us, it is not going to be playable in the PTR, so it is grayed out, but you can at least look at it, which is nice. I do like this addition though, it feels a little bit slick, giving you the kind of key information you need to decide whether you want to play that class or not, or at least give it a try. Now when you jump in, you're going to find that there's a new leveling system. Our max level is now 60, squashed down from 100. This means you're going to have 10 more skill points to work with than normal, but once you hit 60 and beyond, you'll be leveling up your paragon like you previously would at 50. But instead of like 200 paragon points, we're going to have 300. So you've got more skill points to work with, more paragon points to work with. They've just changed the kind of number of your level. Not only that though, we do have big changes for the skill tree and paragon that we aren't really able to properly engage with, not until we're 60. The skill tree though is definitely updated and cool to look at. We have all these new pathways to reach different skills, meaning you can avoid having to spend that awkward 1 point to get to the thing behind it that actually matters. In many cases for my Necromancer, there's builds that just don't need points like that, but I have to waste one to get to what I do care about. So with a new system, I can bypass them or avoid them, and also just the lines that they've done, it just looks very cool. And that's obviously on top of the new skill passives they've generally added, along with everyone getting a new key passive, and in particular the Necromancer, they have a new ultimate option, pretty standout. When you get into the game though, you're going to notice that there's new difficulty modes. You choose between the first, second, and third initially. The third is meant to be unlocked after you progress the campaign, but it seems uncertain what that means. Potentially it could mean the original campaign, and we've all done that, so it's available right away. Though it might also mean the new one in the DLC, which we certainly haven't done, but they've just unlocked it for the PTR for us, I guess. In any case, the first world tiers or difficulties are like world tiers 1 through 4, and now we have 5, 6, 7, and 8. World tier 1 is pretty irrelevant, but world tier 2 is going to give you that XP and gold increase you should expect. World tier 3 even more as before, and so on and so on. Itemization has changed though. There's now just normal items, and then your ancestrals. Sacreds are just gone. Ancestrals are meant to be more of a rare drop, and they'll only start dropping once you're in world tier 5, aka the first level of Torment, with better drop rates as you go up into the higher difficulty modes. For us and the leveling experience, you definitely want to start in World Tier 2, also known as Hard. There's absolutely no challenge, no threat, completely brain-off gameplay, and the XP was comparable to what I remember in Tier 2. By comparison though, on Expert or World Tier 3 as it is now, the power increase was noticeable only for elite mechanics. So everything else is pretty much a pushover still, and when you get into a basic build in any case, it's going to crush it. Based on my experience while leveling like at low levels, I think World Tier 3 Expert is what we're going to instantly start leveling if that is an option, unless we first have to do the campaign. So with that in mind, you want to push into World Tier 3 Expert as soon as possible in the new leveling, at least based on this experience. When you jump in, you're going to find that your keybinds and settings have been updated, basically reset to default though. So be sure to open that up and go to the advanced tooltip settings. At a minimum, turn these on. Also, I recommend you turn off the combine, move, interact, and basic skill so that you have a set bind for your basic, and then left click can be movement only. This will prevent you being caught in attack animations when you're trying to move through groups. It's just a good idea in general, so just a reminder for that. And also, yeah, you got to set up the special binds you might be using. While you're in town, you'll find the stash has been filled with a bunch of items. In my case, I had a bunch of normal items and legendaries alongside some uniques, and all the items in my original stash that I could bring over in a unique tab for that too. These are tagged as legacy items though, which can't be tempered. Using these items in the PTR initially while leveling, especially between 50 and 60, is completely fine though. It's just you want to replace these in theory since they're not tied to the current systems. You might be wondering, what about the new region? It is there, and it's kind of blurred out and foggy, essentially undiscovered. What's funny is that world stuff will happen there, like world bosses will be shown down there, and yet as we go over there where the clear entrances are, you'll find that when you try, you'll be told you don't have access and be kicked out sadly. And so that's going to come across in a lot of the content. Let's talk about the new leveling path and thoughts and what's actually in this PTR for that side of things. When the DLC launches, we're going to have that new campaign, which when you complete it, it'll unlock the new mechanic, Undercity. The Undercity is meant to be their new mechanic, tied a lot to leveling as a big option for that. And unfortunately, it's not in the PTR. Like I said, anything locked behind Vessel of Hatred as a DLC is not in this PTR, the new content, the new endgame systems. But either way, we imagine at the DLC launch, they'll be doing that new campaign to get all the new stuff unlocked. Probably that'll unlock World Tier 3 and Expert, but I can't imagine the campaign's going to be overly long or as slow as the original back in pre-season, since again, the Undercity is meant to be a way to help us level. Fortunately, once you finish the campaign, you'll have the features unlocked permanently, and you won't have to do it again in the future. For us though on the PTR, for early game leveling, there's no Infernal Hordes either, which was a main source of XP in Season 5. One of the known issues about this is that they're telling us do not engage with Infernal Hordes as it will lead to a soft lock on your client. Pretty ridiculous. Tier 1 Horde was great XP, Tiers 2 and 3 when you're ready, also amazing, but I guess a part of this issue is that the enemies in a Tier 2 were level 75, and in Tier 3 they were level 100. With that mechanic gone, and our levels being changed in this way, I guess they've got to rework it for the difficulty changes. Maybe that's why they didn't put it in this PTR, they weren't ready, but it does suck to not be able to test that and see its XP value in these changes, especially when we think about the Undercity kind of contesting it as a new leveling option when the DLC drops. Getting to test and compare those would have been nice. So we're left with just doing Helltide for early XP for your early leveling, feeling very similar to the main leveling loop in Season 4. Beyond that though, you will go into Nightmare Dungeons when you're higher level to farm that out. However, that was certainly different this time because of the new looking for group system in place. People are just using that to form fast 4-mans and then farming Nightmare Dungeons to push level 60. As you see I do here, I just pull it up by pressing Shift and P together, or you can find it on the map. And here we have two options to find current groups or list our own. It was easy to look to the left side and look at the listings, find Nightmare Dungeon farming groups, pick one that's nearly full or about to be full, and jump in and join them just like that. Super smooth. On the other hand, I tried to list my own group for Nightmare Dungeon farming and no one joined or even interacted, but at least it was easy to make the group and pick the tags and say this is what I'm doing, join for that. So in the early leveling, it was pretty much just Helltide, and in the later leveling, it was Helltide and this new Nightmare Dungeon farming system with looking for party. Outside of that, there are some things to be aware of. Some new quality of life, like the updated special quests. These appear now as purple pink icons on the map, basically letting you know there's an important thing to do in town to make an upgrade, like improving your potion levels. But a weird detail I found is that I could craft any elixir I wanted right away. No level requirement. That's normally staged by different level requirements. Maybe it's just because it's the PTR, but it's the difference of getting an extra 5% XP before hitting level 10, or the bigger 8% at higher levels. So yeah, something to be aware of in the PTR. There's also other updates like the inventory tabs. We now have 4 of these: equipment, socketables, consumables, and dungeon keys, along with 1 extra stash tab. Woohoo! Other quality of life is like the wardrobe button, allowing you to swap your cosmetics wherever you are, instead of having to go to a specific town and going to the wardrobe. So yeah, that's convenient. On that note, they've also added a statue in the different main cities to swap the difficulties. What a concept. Nice to have, but couldn't that also just be a button in our inventory screen like the wardrobe one? Maybe I'm asking for too much. Either way, to give you an idea of how leveling felt this time, I feel actually slower and less brain off compared to Season 4 and especially Season 5 for this kind of leveling. It's subtle, but it feels like there's slightly more effort involved to kill things compared to just wandering around and things are just dying everywhere and XP's being thrown at you. Most notably in open world and group content like the Helltide and the Ritual, where you're killing mobs but there's lots of other players doing the same, and so you're picking up their stuff and scooping up extra XP. That's certainly still a thing though, it just feels like they've toned it back a little, and I think that's reasonable. I would have loved to test the Undercity, or at least Infernal Hordes in the new settings that we have, but obviously they're being restrictive on these things. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the ridiculous thing with leveling that Rex did during this PTR. Now, I'm not sure everyone's going to be able to replicate this one, because what Rex did was essentially have someone, a high level, invite him to the party. This was at the end of a stronghold, so, you know, about to hand it in and get the XP burst of completing the stronghold, transferring to their world, having them leave the party, handing in the stronghold, getting the XP burst, multiple levels, then having someone else invite him, transferring to their world, and doing it again, and again, and again. Each time giving him multiple levels for a hand-in, leading to an incredible result of 1 to 60 in 20 minutes. I suppose this is because the Stronghold XP is kind of scaling with your level. They're always valuable whenever you do them. Obviously though, this is unintended. Don't expect to be able to do this, especially now that it's been shown by Rex. The thing is, who was going to be able to do this other than like the most popular streamers who are actively live and having their community do this for them? We're talking about a lot of people willingly doing this for someone else. Still, 1 to 60 in 20 minutes, with 60 being our new level cap, don't forget. That is ludicrous. So props to Rex on the record or whatever. But yeah, that's been our initial look at the first days of the PTR and what they want us to do, which is test leveling. They have this whole massive list of known PTR issues to be aware of. I would recommend checking out that post. There's a lot going on there and more being added to it. But if you do find something unusual or something weird happens to you, I imagine doing a bug report is still going to be an important thing. But yeah, there's my quick overview of the leveling and first days of the PTR and the important things to know. I hope this was useful to you if you're going to jump in, or maybe just give you context if you're not actually going to play the PTR yourself. I'll be back in a couple days when they actually allow us to do proper testing though at level 60 and proper endgame content. Until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.